The afternoon sun cast long shadows across Maple Street as Officer Jake Morrison sat in his patrol car, scrolling through social media on his phone. He'd been having a bad day. Already written up twice this month by his supervisor. And his mood was getting worse by the hour. The quiet suburb and neighborhood usually didn't see much action, which made Morrison even more irritated. He wanted excitement, wanted to feel important again. That's when he spotted the sleek black hover car gliding silently down the street. The vehicle was clearly expensive, probably worth more than Morrison made in 5 years, but what really caught his attention was the driver. Through the tinted windows, he could make out an Asian man behind the wheel, and Morrison's prejudices immediately kicked into overdrive. "What's someone like that doing in this neighborhood?" Morrison muttered to himself, flipping on his emergency lights. He'd find something wrong with this traffic stop. He was sure of it. The hover car pulled over smoothly, its anti-gravity engines humming quietly as it settled onto the street. Morrison approached with his chest puffed out, already planning his confrontation. He'd show this outsider who was in charge round here. The driver stepped out calmly, and Morrison was surprised by the man's appearance. He was tall, well-built, wearing an expensive suit that screamed military precision. Every movement was controlled, disciplined. But Morrison's racism was stronger than his observation skills. "License and registration," Morrison barked, his hand automatically hovering near his weapon. It was a habit he'd developed over the years, using intimidation to control situations. "Of course, officer," replied General Kinday, though Morrison had no idea he was speaking to Earth's most decorated military leader. The man who had single-handedly negotiated peace with 3 alien civilizations, the same person who had led the defense of the outer colonies against the mechanical harvester fleets just 2 years ago. Kinday moved slowly and deliberately, his trained mind already assessing the dangerous situation. He'd faced down 10-foot-tall warrior aliens and robotic killing machines, but he knew that an unpredictable, prejudiced human could be just as deadly. His hands remained visible as he reached for his identification. Morrison's anger flared as he took in the expensive car and the driver's confident demeanor. This wasn't how things were supposed to go. People like this were supposed to be scared of him, supposed to show respect for his authority. "What's someone like you doing in this neighborhood?" Morrison demanded, his voice getting louder. Several neighbors had started to peek out their windows, drawn by the commotion. "I live here," Kinday replied quietly, producing his identification card. The small device contained more security clearances than Morrison had ever seen. Access codes to military facilities across 3 solar systems, and diplomatic immunity papers signed by species Morrison couldn't even pronounce. But Morrison barely glanced at the identification. His mind was made up. He saw what he wanted to see: a foreigner in an expensive car who didn't belong in his neighborhood. The military insignia, the classification levels, the emergency contact numbers that led directly to the Pentagon and the Galactic Defense Command. None of it registered. "Don't smart-mouth me," Morrison shouted, his face reddening with anger. In one swift motion, he drew his service weapon, pointing it directly at General Kinday's chest. The street suddenly felt much quieter. Even the birds seemed to stop chirping. Several neighbors gasped and ducked back inside their homes. This was not how a routine traffic stop was supposed to go. Kinday raised his hand slowly, his voice remaining perfectly steady despite having a gun pointed at his heart. "Officer, please check my credentials carefully." Inside his calm exterior, the general's military training was working overtime. He calculated distances, escape routes, and tactical advantages. He disarmed hostile aliens barehanded before, survived boarding actions on damaged starships, and walked through battlefields where plasma bolts flew like rain. But he also knew that one wrong move here could destroy everything he'd worked for. Morrison kept the gun trained on him, completely unaware that he was threatening the one human that alien species across the galaxy trusted most, the man who had convinced the crystal beings of Altair 7 that humans weren't just another violent species. The same person who had shared drinks with the insectoid commanders of the Hive Collective after they'd fought side by side against the AI rebellion. In the Vega system, I said, "Don't move," Morrison yelled. Though Kim Day hadn't moved at all, the officer's hands were shaking slightly now, adrenaline and prejudice combining into a dangerous cocktail. The general remained motionless, knowing that his next words could determine not just his own fate, but potentially the future of human-alien relations across the galaxy. In his pocket, his emergency communicator was already automatically transmitting his location and vital signs to Military Command. Soon, very soon, this situation was going to change dramatically. But for now, he waited, hands raised, while an ignorant officer pointed a gun at the chest of Earth's greatest protector. The sound of approaching sirens cut through the tense afternoon. As two more patrol cars rounded the corner onto Maple Street, Morrison felt a surge of confidence as backup arrived. Now, he'd have witnesses to whatever story he decided to tell about this confrontation. Sergeant Lehanna stepped out of the first patrol car, her experienced eyes immediately scanning the scene. She'd been a cop for 15 years and something. About this situation felt completely wrong. Morrison had his weapon drawn on what appeared to be a well-dressed civilian who was standing perfectly still with his hands raised. No signs of struggle. No evidence of any crime. Just Morrison pointing a gun at someone. "Morrison, what's the situation?" she called out, keeping her own hand ready, but not drawing her weapon. Her instincts were screaming that this was about to become a major problem. "Got a suspicious person here," Morrison replied, still keeping his gun trained on General Kim Day. His voice carried the edge of someone who knew he was in over his head, but was too proud to back down. Driving an expensive car through the neighborhood, acting all high and mighty, Lehanna approached slowly, noticing how the supposed suspicious person wasn't acting suspicious at all. The man was calm, controlled, and had the bearing of someone used to command. Something definitely wasn't adding up here. "Did you check his identification?" she asked Morrison, though she could already guess the answer from his defensive posture. "Yeah, I looked at it," Morrison lied, his eyes never leaving Kim Day. But Lehanna was already moving toward the general, who slowly nodded toward the identification card that had fallen to the ground when Morrison had drawn his weapon. She picked it up and immediately knew Morrison was lying. The card was still sealed in its protective case, completely unexamined. As she activated the identification scanner, her face began to change color. The device immediately lit up with security warnings and classification levels she'd never seen before. Emergency contact numbers flashed across the screen, direct lines to military command centers and government officials she'd only seen on television. "Morrison, lower your weapon immediately," she shouted, her voice carrying absolute authority. "This is General Kim Day of the Interstellar Defense Command." Morrison's face went from confident to confused in seconds. "What are you talking about? He's just some. He's the hero of the Battle of Titan Station," Lehanna interrupted, her voice rising with each word. "The man who saved the entire Outer Rim from the Harvester invasion. You just drew a gun on Earth's most decorated military leader." The color drained from Morrison's face as the reality hit him. Round the neighborhood, People were starting to come out of their houses, drawn by the commotion. Some were recording with their phones, capturing every moment of what was quickly becoming a disaster. That's when the real chaos began. Kim Day's emergency communicator had been transmitting his location and status to military command from the moment Morrison drew his weapon. The automated systems that protected Earth's highest-ranking officials were already in motion, and nothing could stop them now. The first sign was the deep rumble overhead, a military transport ship, sleek and black, appeared in the sky above Maple Street. It moved without sound, using the same anti-gravity technology that powered the General's car. But this was a ship designed for a rapid response and extraction of VIPs. Morrison looked up at the ship in growing horror as federal vehicles began arriving from every direction. Black SUVs with government plates, military police vehicles, and even an armored command unit that looked like it belonged on a battlefield rather than a suburban street. "What the hell is happening?" Morrison whispered, finally lowering his weapon as the magnitude of his mistake became clear. Chief Rodriguez arrived in his personal vehicle, his face red with a mixture of fury and embarrassment. He'd gotten a call directly from the mayor, who'd gotten it from the governor, who'd gotten it from someone in Washington whose name was above his pay grade. One of his officers had just threatened to shoot the one person on Earth that alien civilizations trusted most. "Morrison, holster your weapon and step away," Chief Rodriguez shouted as he approached. Behind him, military police were taking positions round the scene, their own weapons ready but pointed at the ground. These weren't regular cops. They were the elite soldiers who protected Earth's most important people. The transport ship above began to descend, its landing thrusters creating small whirlwinds of dust and debris. Neighbors watched in amazement as the craft settled onto the street like something out of a science fiction movie. General Kim Day remained perfectly calm throughout the chaos, finally lowering his hands as military personnel secured the area. One of the soldiers approached him with a salute. "General, are you injured?" the soldier asked. "I'm fine, Captain," Kim Day replied calmly. "Just a misunderstanding that got out of hand." But everyone present knew this was far more than a misunderstanding. Morrison stood frozen, watching his career and possibly his freedom disappear as federal agents began documenting everything. His simple traffic stop had just become an international incident, and somewhere in the back of his mind, he was beginning to realize that the consequences would reach far beyond anything he could imagine. The General's communicator buzzed with incoming messages from alien ambassadors across the galaxy, all asking the same question: was Earth's greatest protector safe? The news traveled faster than light itself through the quantum communication networks that connected civilizations across the galaxy. Within 3 hours of Morrison drawing his weapon, every major alien government knew that General Kim Day had been threatened by his own species. Admiral Park Jin was reviewing defensive positions around the lunar mining colonies when his communication console erupted with priority alerts. The massive space station orbiting Earth's moon suddenly became the busiest place in the solar system as ambassadors from dozens of worlds demanded immediate answers. The first call came from the Alterian homeworld, transmitted through their crystalline communication rays that could send messages across thousands of light-years in minutes. The Alterian delegate's voice came through the universal translator with unmistakable concern. "Admiral Park Jin, we have received disturbing reports. The human we trust most was threatened by his own kind." The translator struggled with the Alterian's emotional harmonics, but the worry was clear in every word. Park Jin stared at the holographic display showing the alien delegate's shimmering form. The Alterians were beings of pure energy who had existed for millions of years, and they rarely showed emotion about anything. But Kim Day had personally saved their colony ships from a black hole collision, earning their eternal gratitude. The reports are accurate. Park Jin replied carefully. General Kim was threatened during routine interaction with local law enforcement. He was not harmed. But the damage was already spreading through the galactic community like wildfire. Captain Omin, stationed aboard the defense platform orbiting Jupiter, watched her screens fill with incoming diplomatic messages. The Insectoid Hive Collective, who normally communicated only once per Earth month, had sent 17 separate inquiries in the past hour. Their mechanical translation programs were working overtime to express concepts that didn't exist in human language. Captain, her communications officer reported. The Vegan Republic is requesting immediate reassurance about human stability. They're asking if this incident represents broader human behavior patterns. Omin felt her stomach drop. The Vegan Republic controlled 3 of the most important trade routes in the galaxy. If they lost confidence in humanity, Earth's entire economy could collapse within weeks. The mechanical beings from the Proxima system sent their message through direct data transmission. Their robotic ambassadors speaking in precise mathematical language that left no room for misunderstanding. Query: does incident indicate systematic malfunction in human social programming? Response required for continued cooperation protocols. These were the same machines that had fought alongside human forces against the organic plague that had threatened to consume entire star systems. Kim Day had convinced them that humans and artificial beings could work together, something no other species had managed to achieve. Dr. Yunsu was working frantically in her xenobiology lab deep beneath the Pentagon, surrounded by holographic displays showing diplomatic channels from across the known galaxy. As Earth's chief expert on alien psychology and communication, she was the person tasked with explaining human behavior to beings who might have 8 arms, live for thousands of years, or exist as pure thought. They're questioning whether humans can be trusted with interstellar responsibilities. She reported to the emergency council that had assembled virtually within an hour of the incident. The Centaurian Empire is asking if this represents a return to humanity's primitive tribal behaviors. Their exact words, the implications were staggering. Humanity had only been part of the galactic community for 12 years, and their membership was still considered probationary by many older civilizations. Earth's entire space program, their colonies on distant worlds, their access to advanced alien technologies, all of it could disappear if the galactic community lost faith in human judgment. The worst news came from the ethereal collective, beings of pure consciousness who existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. They had been humanity's strongest supporters, but their message was chilling. We observe fractures in human unity. Concern grows about species readiness for cosmic responsibilities. Evaluation protocols may require activation. Captain Lee Sung, monitoring deep space communications from the orbital relay station, translated this for the emergency council. They're talking about putting humanity on trial. The ethereals have the power to cut us off from the galactic community entirely. The emergency session included Earth's top military and political leaders, all connected through secure quantum links. President Martinez appeared via hologram from Ella Force One, while Secretary of Defense Williams joined from the Pentagon secure bunker. How bad is this? The president asked directly. Dr. Yunsu pulled up a 3-dimensional map of the galaxy, showing Earth's allies in green and neutral parties in yellow. Sir, we're seeing shifts in diplomatic status across the board. The Aquatic Federation from the Sirius system has moved from friendly to concerned status. They're asking if humans are capable of evolving beyond their violent instincts. But the most troubling response came from the ancient beings known as the Watchers, creatures so old they remembered the birth of galaxies. They rarely communicated with anyone, but their message was simple and terrifying. Humanity's worthiness questioned. Observation intensifies. General Kim Day. Now safely secured in a military facility. watched the diplomatic crisis unfold on multiple screens. He knew that his calm response during the traffic stop hadn't just been about personal safety. It had been about proving that humans could rise above their worst instincts even in TH. In most challenging situations, his reports continued flowing in from across the galaxy. One thing became clear. This wasn't just about Morrison's racism anymore. This was about whether humanity deserved its place among the stars, and the answer would determine the fate of every human being alive. The general knew that humanity's future now hung in the balance, and time was running out to prove they belonged in the galactic community. The emergency meeting in the White House Situation Room began at exactly 0600 hours. 24 hours after Morrison had drawn his weapon. President Martinez sat at the head of the table, surrounded by military leaders, cabinet members, and holographic displays showing alien ambassadors from across the galaxy. The room hummed with tension as Earth's most powerful people worked to save humanity's future. "Get me General Kim on a secure line immediately," the president ordered. Within seconds, Kim Day's face appeared on the main screen, calm and composed despite everything that had happened. "General, on behalf of the entire human race, I apologize for what happened to you," President Martinez said, his voice carrying the weight of genuine remorse. "This does not represent who we are as a species," Kim Day nodded respectfully. "Mr. President, I understand, but our alien allies need to see action. Not just words. They're watching how we handle this crisis." Congress had already launched 3 separate investigations within hours of the incident. Emergency sessions were called, with representatives flying back to Washington from around the world. The speed of their response was unprecedented, but everyone understood what was at stake. Colonel Choi Bin, one of Earth's most respected military lawyers, was chosen to lead the tribunal that would review every aspect of the incident. Her reputation for fairness was known throughout the armed forces, and her decisions could make or break careers. "This cannot represent who we are," she declared during her first press conference. "Every officer, every department, every protocol will be examined. We will show the galaxy that Earth takes justice seriously." Behind her, massive screens displayed real-time updates from the investigation. Officer Morrison's entire career was being dissected. His training records, his past incidents, his psychological evaluations. The findings were disturbing. Multiple complaints about racial bias that had been ignored or covered up by his department. Morrison himself sat in a federal holding facility, finally understanding the magnitude of his mistake. His career was over. That much was certain. Federal charges were being prepared that could send him to prison for years. But more than that, his actions were being broadcast across human space, shown to every colony, every space station, every human settlement in the galaxy. The real work began with Detective Kang Ho, a veteran investigator who had been chosen to completely overhaul law enforcement training across Earth. His team worked round the clock, developing new protocols that would prevent another Morrison incident. "We're not just changing procedures," Kang Ho explained to the Emergency Council. "We're changing how officers think, how they see their role in society. Every police academy, every training facility, every department will implement these changes within 60 days. The new training included virtual reality scenarios where officers would interact with alien species, preparing them for humanity's diverse future. Cultural sensitivity programs were expanded, and most importantly, new oversight systems were put in place that would flag problematic behavior before it could escalate." But the real test came when Lieutenant Commander Seodam stood before the Galactic Council, representing humanity to dozens of alien civilizations. The massive space station where the Council met orbited a neutral star between several alien homeworlds. and its chambers could accommodate beings of every shape and size imaginable. Seodan looked out at the assembled representatives, floating, jellyfish-like creatures from the water worlds, towering rock beings from high-gravity planets, mechanical ambassadors whose bodies gleamed with advanced technology, and energy beings whose forms shifted like living roar. Esteemed delegates, she began, her words being translated into hundreds of alien languages simultaneously. Humanity's strength has always been our ability to confront our flaws and grow stronger. The insectoid delegate's translator buzzed. With skepticism, your species shows concerning patterns of internal violence. How can we trust humans with galactic responsibilities? Seodam had prepared for this question. Because we don't hide from our mistakes. We expose them, we fix them, and we learn from them. Officer Morrison's actions were wrong, but watch how we respond. She activated a holographic display showing the massive changes already underway on Earth. New training programs, oversight committees, cultural exchange programs between human and alien communities. The scope was impressive. But the aliens remained cautious. The real moment came when General Kim Dae himself appeared via quantum link from Earth. His presence immediately commanded respect. Even the ancient energy beings focused their attention on judge us not by our worst moments, but by how we respond to them, Kim Dae declared, his voice carrying across the chamber. Morrison represents humanity's past, our primitive fears and prejudices. But look round this council. I have fought, beside many of you, saved your worlds and your trust. This is humanity's future. The crystalline delegate from Altair 7 resonated with harmonic tones of agreement. General Kim Dae speaks truth. Humans have proven their worth in battle and diplomacy, but it was the mechanical ambassador from Proxima who provided the most surprising support. Analysis complete. Human response demonstrates evolution in social programming. Improvement rate exceeds expectations. Recommendation: continue probationary status with enhanced monitoring. The ethereal collective, those beings of pure consciousness, spoke last. We observe genuine change in human patterns. This crisis reveals strength, not weakness. Humanity may continue its galactic integration. As the council session ended, Kim Dae knew they had won a crucial victory. Humanity's place in the galactic community was secure. But more importantly, they had proven that humans could grow beyond their worst instincts. The response to Morrison's racism had mobilized an entire planet, reformed institutions, and demonstrated to the galaxy that humanity deserved its place among the stars. 3 months after the incident on Maple Street, deep space monitoring stations detected something that made every living being in the galaxy freeze with terror. The Void Fleet had returned. These weren't ordinary enemies. The Void Fleet was a collection of massive, dark ships that seemed to absorb light itself. Nobody knew where they came from or what they wanted, but every world they touched became lifeless, drained of all energy and left as empty husks floating in space. They had appeared once before, 50 years ago, and it had taken the combined might of 12 civilizations just to drive them away. Now they were back. And they were heading straight for the most populated sector of the galaxy. General Kim Dae stood on the bridge of the flagship Unity, the most advanced warship ever built. The massive vessel stretched for nearly 2 kilometers, its hull gleaming with both human engineering and alien technology. But what made it truly special was its crew, the most diverse group of beings ever assembled on a single ship. The bridge buzzed with activity as crew members from dozens of different worlds worked together. Commander Namju, a human woman from the Korean colonies, coordinated with the Altarian fleet through their crystal communication rays. Her console showed hundreds of ships taking position round the sector, each one representing a different civilization that had put aside their differences to face this threat. "The Altarians are reporting full battle readiness," Namju announced. "Their energy weapons are charged and ready to fire." Nearby, Engineer by Sun worked alongside 3 crystalline beings from the Altarian home world. These aliens looked like living diamonds, their bodies refracting light in beautiful patterns. As they moved, they were enhancing the Unity's defensive shields using technology that humans were only beginning to understand. Shield harmonics are synchronizing perfectly, Baisan reported. Wiping sweat from his forehead, the Altarian crystal matrices, boosting our defensive power by 300%. Across the bridge, alien crew members worked at stations designed for their unique abilities. The insectoid communications officer could process dozens of different languages simultaneously, while the aquatic navigation specialist calculated jump coordinates using mathematical concepts that hum and minds could barely grasp, General reported. Communications Officer Limial, his voice steady despite the magnitude of what they were facing. "All fleets report ready. We have over 800 ships from 47 different worlds." Kim Day nodded, looking out at the tactical display that showed the approaching Void Fleet. The enemy ships were massive, each one easily twice the size of the Unity. They moved through space like living shadows, their dark hulls seeming to bend. "Like around them, this is it," Kim Day announced to his crew. "Everything we've worked for, everything we've built together, comes down to this moment." The first wave of void ships emerged from hyperspace like nightmares made real. They were even larger than the reports had suggested, their dark surfaces rippling with energy that seemed to eat light itself. As they approached, several smaller ships began to lose power, their energy being drained by some unknown force. "All ships, maintain maximum distance," Kim Day ordered. "Do not let them get close enough to drain your power cores." The battle began. With a massive coordinated strike, human railguns fired alongside Altarian energy beams, while the mechanical ships from Proxima launched swarms of robotic fighters. The insectoid fleet used their bioorganic vessels to create living barriers, their ships literally growing no armor as they fought. But the Void Fleet was unlike anything they had ever faced. The enemy ships absorbed energy attacks and seemed to grow stronger with each hit. Conventional weapons barely scratched their dark holes. "They're adapting to our attacks," shouted Engineer by Sun. "Every weapon we use becomes less effective." That's when the true power of the diverse alliance became clear. The crystal beings suggested using harmonic resonance to disrupt the void ship's energy absorption. The mechanical beings provided precise targeting data, while the aquatic species offered tactical formations that had been developed over millions of years of warfare. Commander Nanju coordinated the complex attack, her voice calm despite the chaos around them. "All ships, switch to harmonic pulse weapons. Follow the Altarian lead and synchronize your frequencies." The combined fleet began to fight as one organism, each species contributing their unique strengths, the mechanical precision of the robotic ships, the flowing tactics of the aquatic fleets, the raw power of the crystalline vessels, and the adaptability of human forces all worked together. Slowly, the tide began to turn. The void ships, which had seemed invincible, started to retreat as the harmonic attacks disrupted their energy-draining abilities. One by one, the massive dark vessels began to fall, their hulls cracking and releasing the energy they had stolen from countless worlds on Earth. Former Officer Morrison watched the battle broadcast from his new workplace, his spacecraft maintenance facility where he cleaned and repaired the ships that protected humanity. For the first time since that day on Maple Street, he truly understood what his hatred had nearly cost his entire species if Kim Day had been killed or discredited. This alliance never would have existed. The trust between species, the cooperation, that was now saving the galaxy. All of it had been built on the foundation of respect that the General had earned through years of service. As the last voyage ship retreated into the darkness of deep space, General Kimday stood on the bridge of the Unity, surrounded by beings from across the galaxy who had fought and bled together. The victory belonged to all of them. General, Communications Officer Lineal reported with obvious relief. The Void Fleet is in full retreat. All allied ships are reporting minimal casualties. Kimday looked out at the stars, knowing that this moment proved something important about the nature of civilization itself. Humanity's greatest strength had never been their weapons or their technology. It was their ability to unite with others despite their differences, to grow from their mistakes, and to stand together when everything was on the line. The racist cop who had nearly destroyed everything was now just a footnote in history. While the unity he had almost prevented was what saved the galaxy. The end.